Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the county's virtual press conference today. Speaking today will be County Judge Samaniego. He will be providing an update on the county's stay-home order. At the end of the press conference, the judge will also make some comments in Spanish. Judge, would you like to go ahead and get us started?
Absolutely. Nicole, thank you. Thank you, Erica. And I'd like to thank our legal team that has worked relentlessly throughout these last few days. I thank you for your commitment and for everybody else in the county that participates in trying to do the best we can in our community. Other than being able to share with you my decision at this time, I'm really glad that I have the opportunity and very proud that I have the opportunity to salute all our veterans on this very special day. I know that Veterans Day is obviously different today than prior years due to the pandemic this year. This saddens me as I am always the first to want to celebrate and honor the amazing veterans in my community. However, it is our duty to ensure that we now take care of them as one of the most valuable citizens are veterans. You know, I still insist and take the opportunity every time that I feel, because of the amazing veterans, all the resources that we have, the agencies that pull together to help our veterans in need. You know, I'm always very comfortable in saying that El Paso should be, without a doubt, the veterans capital of the U.S. and will continue to work to earn that title, whatever it takes. I'd like to provide all of you with a brief update on the county's order. On Monday, November 9th, the Texas Attorney General's office had asked the Texas Supreme Court to immediately halt El Paso County's stay-at-home order number 13. This morning, we received news that the Texas Supreme Court denied the state's request to halt the order. The Texas Supreme Court is allowing the Eighth Court of Appeals to decide the legal issues, first including where there is a need to issue an order immediately stopping the county's order. The Eighth Court of Appeals is expected to rule by tomorrow, the emergency relief requesting an injunction, and the merits by Friday, November the 13th. This means that the county stay-at-home order number 13 remains in effect. I'd like to reiterate that because it's very important. One of the things that I'm really trying during this entire press conference is to lessen and minimize any confusion that we might have out in our community. This means that the county stay-at-home order number 13 remains in effect. I remain optimistic that the Eighth Court of Appeals will make a decision that is in the best interest of the El Paso community as our hospitals continue to be overwhelmed. Every day that the county's order remains in effect is another day that we can save lives. It is another day that we can provide at least some relief to our health care workers who are extremely exhausted. I think one of the thing that it moves me so much, and it's difficult to understand the amount of work and the amount of intensity that you find in our healthcare workers every single day. Our condolences to those that have lost their lives as healthcare workers, and also, our best wishes to those who are struggling with COVID at this point in time, which there are several that are under that situation. It is another day that we can keep our morgues from reaching further capacity. El Paso has a total of 6 mobile morgues. 4 are in use, and we are preparing to get another 4 in order to keep up with the number of deaths that we are seeing at this point in time. Walking around, and I'm sure most of you got an opportunity to see some of the national news, and seeing those mobile units is extremely difficult for any El Pasoan, anyone to understand that there are souls from El Paso in these units is really a very difficult and trying situation. Currently, El Paso is at 51% COVID-19 hospitalizations. What that means is that 51% of all patients in our hospitals right now are COVID patients. According to a daily report from UMC, today they reported 1,107 COVID patients. This is an increase of 53 patients from yesterday. We report 287 COVID plus ICU patients. This is an increase of 8 patients. We also report 204 COVID patients on ventilators. This is a decrease of 1 patient. The rolling 7-day average of new cases is 1,316 at this time. This is a decline of 320 new cases that are being reported. I would like to say that although the stay-at-home order was not exercised in its fullest extent until Judge Moody ruled in my favor, I would like to give credit to the stay-at-home order for the 3-day decreases in average positivity rate. I really believe that with the less we congregate, and if this wasn't the essence of the order or the spirit of the order, that we need to, in every possible way, stop the mobility and the transmission of this virus. So by staying home, we obviously have that impact. I believe that the stay-at-home order and the curfew has in fact decreased the average positivity rate. With that said, I've decided to extend the county stay-at-home order until we can regain some stability in our community. The updated order, which is order number 14, will be in effect until Tuesday, December the 1st at 2 a.m. I'm ensuring that the expiration of that order is after Thanksgiving. I know it will be difficult for us not to gather. However, we must all take personal responsibility to protect our loved ones, our friends, and our neighbors. We as a community did not fare well with prior holidays and are still dealing with the domino effects of the peaks that we encountered during these holidays. If you recall, prior to each and every holiday, we pleaded with our community to stay at home, not to congregate. And if you recall, each and every holiday, we had huge peaks. Some of the largest were in 4th of July and some of the other holidays that created that congregation that is so familiar to us. And I understand the unity of El Paso. You know, we tend to be united. We're very family oriented. And this has been, to some extent, a disadvantage for our community. As long as our hospitalization rate continue to be at 30% and above, I will continue to do all that I can to protect our community with the county's stay-at-home order. In the updated order, will be posted online via www.epcounty.com. You will find a matrix based on our hospitalizations. We are monitoring the dashboard via www.elpasostrong.com. And I am hopeful that if we can get our numbers down to 25%, between the rate of 25 to 29%, then I will be in support of reopening up 20% of the capacity of our businesses. If we can get to 15 to 24, then I will be in support of reopening up to 50% of the capacity. I would like to reiterate to please take precaution at Thanksgiving as it approaches. The reason that it is difficult for us to continue to open our businesses is based on these ratios. You know, having 49% and 53% of our hospitals dealing with COVID patients makes it really difficult to continue opening our businesses. I assure you that I will be convening meetings with business leaders and industry associations so together we can safely open the economy. Of course, their input and participation is very important. So as you have it now, our order continues starting today at midnight and going to December the 1st. I'm encouraging everyone that I can to please not let it be the order, not me as Ricardo Samaniego, your county judge, but the fact that our community should understand better than anyone else what needs to take place at this point in time. I want to reiterate something that was very important that people have brought to my attention that I need to stress, and that is that it is a temporary stay-at-home order. It is not indefinite, it's a temporary based on our numbers. I can assure you that if we all rally together and I can engage the business community that is a very big part of my own life to rally with us for a short period of time, the impact that it will have on our community will be much less if we do so, and it'll be prolonged if we don't. I do not want our economy and our businesses to be thinking about opening in the months of January or February, and we've seen that situation happen. I would like to stress that when we focus primarily on public health and try to minimize the impact on our economy, we saw some huge gains. The reason we were able to open the economy was based on our behavior as a community. We lost that, dropped our guard, and things begin to happen. I understand it's not the singular situation. We understand that it is that symbiotic relationship that we have with our incredible neighbors to the south. The fact that we're so close to Doña Ana, this is a beautiful dynamic that we appreciate and enjoy the majority of the time. Now together we must face that because of that dynamic relationship, we're facing some critical situations that are not very well understood from someone in Austin or someone in Houston, but are very understood by us here in El Paso. I would like to thank the city-county wide health task force, the associations, pediatric associations, the delegations, our delegation, which has been extremely supportive, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, and everyone that is understanding what we need to do at this point in time. It is really a plea that our community has always been a role model, and I think we can continue to do that. I want to stress once again, a short-term effort to make sure that we don't have a long-term impact on our community. I've been told by the larger cities that nothing singularly will impact our economy to the extent that a broken health care system, having the morgues in that situation and having the indignation of the process, that is an impact that is very difficult to recover from. So the business community, and I feel that I'm part of that community, I reach out to you, help us with this 3 weeks of going forward, make every effort, and I can assure you that no one will work as hard as I have on public health, trying to help them to help the economy open once more. I want to reiterate also that it is really important that we open properly, that we take accountability, that associations really look at their membership. And when we had Facebook, everyone showing how some of the bars converted to restaurants in very disingenuous ways, when people were not wearing masks at bars, when restaurants were not able to open or go from 25 to 50 to 75, but did it anyway. We need to look at that. We need to look at protocols and procedures that allows us to truly open the economy in the best possible way, and that it is a stability that we need going forward. Once again, the best Happy Veterans Day. A huge hug to all our veterans from our community. We thank you for being and doing the service. No one does volunteer and service work better than veterans. They know leadership, they understand sacrifice, and that sacrifice that they had for our nation is now the sacrifice that they make for our community. Thank you for all the organizations that help our veterans do better and that we dignify their lives as much as we can. I thank you.
Thank you, Judge. We will now be taking some questions from our media partners.
Thank you.
The first caller is 6571.
Chris Babcock, El Paso Herald-Post.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Judge. Thanks for calling this today and allowing us to make some questions here. Again, you touched on the fact that even for the limited time that the stay-at-home order was in effect, it did reduce it for those 3 days. Your hopes going forward with this extension through December 1st, will that stand throughout whatever decision the Eighth Court of Appeals will be talking about these next couple of days? And a follow-up to that is, as you may or may not know, several of the school districts are still holding sporting events. Will this affect those decisions as well?
Well, thank you, Chris. And no, we're going to have a tremendous respect for the decisions of the court. Obviously, I will go back to my amazing legal department and the support I get, but we'll respect those orders and do everything that we can to address them and do everything we can to provide direction to our community. So if there is a change that is not to our favor, we obviously would come back with an order that would clarify what we can and cannot do. I still feel, Chris, that we need to be restrictive and dependent on what happens, that I believe that that's going to be very important. And I do believe that the positivity rate will decrease because of the mobility or the less mobility that we have. Curfew was the first drastic step that I took, and we saw less interaction between Juarez and El Paso, young adults in that interaction between us. And with respect to the schools, and I've said, we send recommendations, constantly on what we feel should be the best. We've recommended that they stop their activities and sports during this order. I can only request and recommend based on what I get, the information I get from our medical professions and the task force, but I cannot intervene on the actual decision that they take. So. And Chris, thank you for what you do as well in getting that information out to the community.
Okay. Next media entity is the number 1915. Phone number 1915, you're up.
Hello, hi, Jayla Washington here with KFOX. How are you? Thanks for being here today, County Judge. Just a quick question regarding. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Repeat your name, please, for the judge.
Yes, Jayla Washington with KFOX.
Oh, hi, Jayla. I want to make sure.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jayla. Thank you.
Okay, so what is the county doing to help people who are having to, shut their doors, not taking in paychecks besides unemployment?
I think we've really focused tremendously on whether it's rental assistance, whether it's money to pay their bills. Of course, the CARES Act has been extremely helpful in trying to help. We have an outreach group with Irene Valenzuela that does an amazing job. We've looked at things that we could do not only from helping them, but also there's the LIFT fund for businesses to help them as well. And Jayla, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that we need to take into account is that we do get a lot of employees that feel vulnerable when business is open and feel that sometimes business is open too fast and leave them in a vulnerable situation. And so I'd like to, we're going to focus as well on how to make it safer for businesses to open when we do open. So there's a lot of effort in funding, and of course unemployment is one of those, and the city has done an amazing job of doing that as well. The Hispanic Chamber has some great grants and things that they could do as well, and also, of course, the Greater Chamber. So I think we're all working in unison to make sure that I know how difficult it is, so it's not a matter of go home and I'm sorry, that you have to go through the sacrifice. There is a lot of energy and money placed on helping them while they're staying at home. But it's still a sacrifice. I'm not going to deny it's still a sacrifice. Thank you, Jayla.
Okay. Next media entity is phone number 0047. Caller at 0047, you're up.
Hey, I'm sorry about that. I had my phone on mute. This is Eleanor Dearman with the El Paso Times. I wanted to ask the judge about the letter he sent to Governor Abbott last Friday on the 6th, setting kind of some recommendations for how to amend his order related to business openings. Have you heard back from the governor's office on that letter, and what kind of communications have you had with the governor's office as this litigation plays out in court?
Thank you, Eleanor, because I think that's an excellent point that I need to stress, is that in the in a letter to the governor, we added a matrix that we feel would be very appropriate, and I've included that in the order. We have not received any feedback from the governor. Most of the relationship we've had is through the Attorney General and the court process and the legal process. But I will continue. I think that matrix would be very relevant. One of the things that was very relevant was the fact that the governor felt that 15% capacity of COVID patients in a hospital should be an alarm system. I think one of the things that was missing was that we didn't know what happens at 15. So if you look at my matrix, we're saying when it hits certain levels, this is what we'll do. And so I reach out, and I'll reach out as much as I can to the governor, and hopefully that we do have, embrace our strategic plans and go forward with this matrix, and also allows him to understand that when I'm intervening at a very critical situation, this is not asking for all the authority, but when we're in this situation, we should be able to issue an order based on what we're dealing with, and capacity of the morgues and the hospitals and the backlogs and all the other things and numbers that are coming up. All of these things should warn us that we should be able to have a stay at home. And then this also allows the businesses to strive for something that is not just an order that's endless, but that if we rally together and we get those numbers down and we manage our healthcare system, then we're able to then reopen the economy. So thank you, Eleanor. Always appreciate your writing as well.
Next media entity is number 0535.
Judge, this is Keenan Willard with KFOX. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Hey, Keenan, how are you?
What I wanted to ask you is, we talked about the impact there on the positivity rate, that you attribute a three-day decline in the positivity rate to the shutdown directly. But overall, we've seen big increases in the number of hospital patients. We hit a new record today, as well as that TSA percentage. We're now over 50%. And you've said over and over again, that's really your driving metric for deciding whether to keep the shutdown enacted. Now, do you feel the shutdown is working?
I do, Keenan, because one of the things that people don't realize is that we have 15, 20 days ago that people begin to get sick. They would, they pass the virus to others. And so if you look at the positivity rate, that means that less people are going to be impacting our hospitals. The less positive cases, the less that, because it's a mathematical situation where the more you have a positivity rates, then you have a certain percentage that will end up at the hospitals, and unfortunately a certain percentage of those that will be fatal. And so when you see that the numbers or the hospitalization and the morgues are increasing, that's not based on today's numbers. Those are based on 2-3 weeks ago and the accumulation and the aggregate. And as I've said, Keenan, in our discussions, is that it's a projection that we worry about, that trajectory of what's going to happen 2-3 weeks from now. And so once you lower the positivity rate, then it becomes more manageable going forward, but you're still dealing backwards into the 14 days, 15 days when people were positive at that time. Those peaks that we have, that we hit to the 2000s and so forth, we'll see those further down. So anything that we do to the positivity rate, we might not go 15 days, but maybe 20 days forward, we begin to see a decline in the hospitals.
Alrighty, next media entity is going to be with number 5748.
Judge, this is Saul Saenz with ABC7.
Saul,
question about
how are you?
some of the businesses that, hi, how are you? Some of the businesses that are finding loopholes to remain open, say maybe they're willing to pay the citations, or some of the bars, or they're trying to get taco trucks or food trucks just so they can remain open. What message do you have for them? Are they just going to simply pay the citations and continue going, or will law enforcement go in and take action?
Thank you, Saul. Thank you. Always a pleasure to work with you, Saul. Yes, you know, this is a matter of collective consciousness of our community. This is a matter also that we need to take responsibility and support the drive-throughs and the curbsides and everything within the order. We have a lot of civic-minded individuals here in our community, and I know that they are doing everything possible. So when you know, a business decides that they're going to get, and we have some that have gotten 1, 2, 3, and 4 citations, and that doesn't really, from a businessman myself, that's not business sense. It's not business sense, because to make $4,000 of profit to pay those, you know, those citations doesn't make sense. Also, the community eventually, and we've seen that happen, eventually will or will not favor your business depending on how you address it. Right now, the law is saying that we have to do certain things, and we should respect that law until it's said otherwise by the court. And so when you have a business that does that, sooner or later, the more conscientious citizen will realize that that might not be the business we want to deal with. That might not be the business that's looking at the number of mobile morgues, that's looking at saturation of our hospitals, that's respecting an overall law. It's an order law, just like not wearing a seatbelt. If you don't wear a seatbelt, you're going to get tickets, and you can not wear a seatbelt all you want, and you're going to pay tickets. Does that make sense? I don't think it makes sense. And so we're going to do everything we can from an enforcement side. Once again, thank the El Paso Police Department for joining the constables and our great sheriff, Wiles, and all his team and all the deputies, and also the detention officers that have to deal with some of their situations as well. Yes, be conscientious. It's an order, respect it, and then let the courts decide whether we should go forward or not. And I think that's the best way as a community that we can resolve and address and eventually do open our economy. Thank you, Saul.
Next media entity is 5292.
Hi, Judge. It's Tony with CBS 4 and KFOX. How are you doing today?
Hi, Tony. How are you?
Doing all right, sir. So the stuff that we've been hearing from business owners is, the problem is, if you're going to shut us down, okay, but we need to pay our employees, and they don't have that money, because even well-known restaurants in El Paso are not qualifying for these grants or loans that Live Fund and all these programs have available, because the federal government has their standards too strict. I mean, what's your response to that? And is it something that you can work with Congresswoman Escobar on this?
Well, of course, we're trying every avenue, but I you know, I've never not said it's not a sacrifice. I mean, it's a difficult sacrifice that we're going through, and we understand that. But the fact is, as I said, a lot of the associations and the business community did not intervene on our behalf when they were violating these orders by not wearing masks, by having instead of 50% having 100%. So sometimes the associations have to do their own enforcement. So it's not fair that they don't take accountability for where we are and for my situation to have to go forward like this, because we need the associations to do their own enforcement as well by helping, not enforcement per se, but helping them, reminding them, intervening when they see something in Facebook that's not going in the right direction. When there's 20 people hanging out and no one's wearing a mask in the patio because they think it's outdoors. So we're in this situation because of all of us. I mean, it's not like one or the other, but we did not do things perfectly well. As I said, those peaks that we had every single holiday, we're dealing with them now. They catapult us. They take us to the next level. And so right now, all I'm asking is, let's do the reset button. Let's do the right thing. Let's work at it. Let's do two to 3 weeks of really trying to do the best. And we won't be here in January or February saying, why do we now have a complete shutdown like Juarez? Juarez got to the point where they couldn't, they just tried everything. Closed the bars, they closed the restaurants, and it didn't work. It was the people weren't responding all the time. And what happened? A complete shutdown over a full weekend. And so I think if everyone just sort of takes accountability for what's happening, and that the accountability of everybody leads to the fact that we're in this situation, I think the quicker that we'll get out of this dilemma of to whether who's right and who's wrong. There is a stay-at-home order. The health professionals believe that it's the right thing to do. And I think we should respect the law as much as respect our health professionals. And like I've always said, some of the businessmen are just a chest pain away going into a hospital to realize that dilemma, or that they have an employee that gets hurt or in an automobile accident but gets to the hospital and they can't be attended properly. I don't think anyone wants that from many of our employees. And so that's where I'm pretty adamant that this breakdown will eventually hurt the businesses more so than the order itself.
Thank you, Judge. Okay. Next media entity is 6092.
Good afternoon, Judge. This is Robert Olguin from KFOX. How are you, sir?
Hey, Robert. How are you? Nice to hear from you.
I'm good, thank you. My question to you is this, Judge. You said that earlier that you have a feeling that the emergency shutdown order is playing a role in the drop in the positivity rate. What I hear from a lot of business owners is, show me the science, and especially when it comes to the businesses that are ordered to close right now. What is the science that's telling you, like specifically, why are these businesses being shut down? And I say that because what they'll point to is, as you well know, Home Depot is pretty crowded, Walmarts are pretty crowded. And why not ask those big box stores, if in fact they are a vector, to voluntarily comply, or at least work with you guys to be curbside only, even if you don't have the purview over them?
Well, Robert, what you're saying is that's the next step. That's the next step. If what we're doing at this 3 week, trying to do the best that we can and rally everybody, and we find that, we've got in our order that we allow only one person per household, and if they adhere to that, that's one less thing that we're doing. I would see 7, 8 people shopping at one time, and that expands the probability of the spread. And so what you're talking about is, in essence, do we want to go to that next level and shut down essential businesses? And I understand the discrepancies and the dichotomy between a small business getting hurt more than a big business, but it's not us that we have allowed essential businesses to operate the way they operate. That's a federal order that classifies essential businesses. It's not us. But what we're trying to do within that order is begin to get them. We got them to wear masks. Employees. That was the first thing we did. Employees wearing masks. That was really important. And then we got people to start wearing masks, and the employees were extremely elated because they didn't have to deal with that vulnerability. And so we're working with them. They started to put they dropped their guard, and we need to work hard with that. And that they have the one-way aisles. Then I've seen that they're no longer there. And so I can guarantee you that we'll be pushing in that direction to get the big box. We've identified that they're one of the biggest contributors. What the science behind, and I said that I do feel that that's what it is, because things are coming at us pretty quickly. But when you start seeing a plateau of positivity rates, there is a science, because we know that if we lower positivity rates, that means that mathematically, if we look at all the ratios as to we're using 3% of the positive cases would actually become fatalities. We also now dropped it to 1%, which means when we had 2,100, that means that we would have 21 fatalities based from that figure. So there is a science that says that if it drops, things are getting better. So if you look at the positivity rate, which was the one that was increasing tremendously, we're increasing that. We have over 30,000 active positive cases at this point in time. So when you see that all of a sudden you have a drop in the positivity, it's dropping, then what is it? Well, I mean, less people getting together, less people out and about, and we've stopped that. That people are not out as much. We know that people are not going to Juarez after 10 o'clock. We know that. So I think that's where the answer is, and of course we'll keep an eye on that. And I apologize if I said I feel or I think, because that's coming at us that much quicker. We used to say a New York minute. Now I'm saying a COVID minute. I mean, things are moving really fast. But we look at numbers from the math that we use as to what increases when something happens. And when you drop the positivity rate, that's going to be less people going into the hospital, less people dying.
Okay, Judge, that is all the callers that we have.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. Once again, happy Veterans Day, and really appreciate everything the community is doing. It's something difficult, heavy on me as born and raised in El Paso. And I'd like to say that anybody that, if you're born and raised in El Paso and you have the privilege of being in this situation of helping your community, I think you would lean towards what I'm doing. Because we've been here a long time. We're not, disingenuous about what we need to do. We care and love our community, and here I am, privileged with what I need to do. And it's a difficult thing, but it's something that I have to do. I'd like to finish off that, I've been using the quote from Mark Twain that, if you do the right thing, you'll gratify some, but you'll astonish the rest. And I think we're beginning to astonish so many people, not only here but around the country, that we're doing the right thing and that we were timely. And that if today we started the stay-at-home order, we hadn't done anything, I believe that the numbers would be at such a point that we'd be doing some more drastic things at this time. So I think the timing was right, and it's not just me, it's thanks to the task force, to my team, my legal team, everyone else. Finally, like I said, 3 premises. 1, that I'm on legal grounds, which I believe I am because you've seen the reaction from the courts. 2, that I'm supported by the health professionals. And 3, I'm struggling, but that's if we unite those 3 premises will get us to the best level that we can possibly get to. Thank you.
Hold on. You want to do Spanish? Go ahead.
Yes, okay. Are we open again?
We are up, yes.
Okay. Pues mil gracias. Tengo una gran oportunidad de hablar con la audiencia que habla español. Siempre es un privilegio poder comunicarles a ustedes en español, igual que lo que hacemos la audiencia en inglés. Primeramente, quiero saludar a todos nuestros veteranos. Me da un gran placer y les mando un fuerte abrazo. Somos una comunidad que respetamos y tenemos muchísimos veteranos que nos han ayudado, y no únicamente cuando estaban en el servicio, pero que ahora con ese mismo espíritu de servir lo están haciendo aquí en nuestras comunidades. Les doy muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Sí me da tristeza que no lo podemos hacer como siempre. Yo soy el primero que me gustaría estar saludando y dándoles un fuerte abrazo a los veteranos en todas las celebraciones que siempre tenemos, que no es posible esta vez. Insisto que nosotros aquí en esta comunidad, este condado, debíamos de ser la capital de veteranos de los Estados Unidos, y sigo con eso. Quisiera darles un resumen sobre la orden de que se queden en la casa. El lunes, el 9 de noviembre, el Procurador General dio una orden que debíamos separar la orden que yo tengo de que se queden en la casa. Esta mañana recibimos las noticias de la Corte Suprema de Texas negando de que pararan esta orden. La Corte Suprema de Texas va a permitir que la Corte 8 de Apelación decida elementos legal, que podemos nosotros de seguir o no seguir esta orden en particular. La Corte de Apelación esperamos que mañana dé la orden. Disculpe, el viernes den la orden y que nos digan lo que ellos sienten. Yo tengo muchísima confianza y estoy muy optimista que esta corte nos va a apoyar y va a ser favorable a lo que nosotros necesitamos para continuar con esta orden. Cada día, y ese es uno de los privilegios de lo que ha sucedido legalmente, es que cada día que mi orden es efectiva, nos ayuda a nosotros a salvar las vidas. Es otro día que nos permite ayudarle a los hospitales y a las mortuorias que puedan en una manera digna tratar a sus pacientes. En este momento está tan fuerte la saturación que no nos permite tener y atender a pacientes de una persona que se torció un tobillo, que está en un accidente automovilista, o que está teniendo un ataque corazón. Es bien difícil atender cuando tenemos tan grande la situación y tan difícil la situación en los hospitales. Es otro día que permitimos no continuar, y eso les digo con todo corazón, de cuando uno ve las mortuorias móviles que están, los morgues móviles que tenemos, es tan difícil entender que nuestros seres queridos del Paso están en esta situación. Ahorita tenemos un total de 6 morgues móviles, y están preparando para llegar 4 más. Ahorita en El Paso, 51% de todos los pacientes, y si me escuchan, 51% de todos los pacientes en el hospital están relacionados a pacientes con COVID-19. Ahorita en el hospital tenemos un total de 1,107 pacientes. Este es un incremento de 53 pacientes desde ayer. Estamos reportando 280 pacientes en cuidados intensos. Estamos reportando 104 pacientes en ventiladores. Ahorita tenemos un promedio de 1,306 en este día, un promedio de positivos, de casos nuevos. Está declinando 320 casos en un promedio de 7 días. Yo le quiero dar el crédito al orden y al toque de queda que tenemos de que estamos reduciendo el número de positivos en este momento. Una de las preguntas que tuve con los reporteros es que ¿en qué ayuda eso? Pues en el caso de no tener menos, esa es una forma en la que utilizamos de decir que si tenemos tantos casos, pues tantos casos van a entrar al hospital, tantos van a llegar a cuidados intensivos y desafortunadamente cuántos van a morir sobre eso. Bajando el número de casos positivos, eso es lo que tenemos el impacto positivo. Sabemos que mi orden nunca se llevó a cabo completamente. Sabemos que desde que nos hizo un gran favor de alguien muy querido aquí en nuestra comunidad, el juez Muri, que hizo a nuestro caso, a nuestro favor, de que de ese momento han bajado estos casos positivos. Para decirles y muy claramente que sí voy a extender la orden de que se queden en la casa y esta orden va a estar en efecto desde hoy, a la noche, en este caso va a ser el miércoles a las 2 de la mañana, 12 de la mañana, y va a estar en efectivo en el orden desde hasta martes, el 1 de diciembre a las 12 a.m. Hasta el martes, el 1 de diciembre a las 12 a.m. Si ustedes ven por qué diciembre primero, que no es algo simplemente algo que uno escoge, pero lo que quiero hacer, dado las circunstancias del Día de Gracia, si ustedes saben que hemos pedidole muchísimos antes de los días festivos, porque hemos tenido los picos más altos y que todavía hasta este día tenemos el impacto dominó de que nos está causando problemas y son parte de los números que tenemos ahorita. Te estamos pidiendo con todo corazón que el Día de Gracias, sabemos, nuestra comunidad es cuando vienen los parientes y tenemos celebraciones y va a ser otro sacrificio, pero ese sacrificio va a salvar muchísimas vidas. Quiero que sepan de que es algo que se le presentó al gobernador, que se llama un matrix. Eso es una manera de figurar cuándo debemos de abrir la economía. Y quiero decir que mientras estemos arriba del 30%, el 30% de pacientes en el hospital, voy a continuar con esta orden de que se queden en la casa. Esta orden va a estar puesta en www.epcounty.com y van a encontrar allí para que vean y puedan ustedes entender cuándo va a ser más posible bajar la orden y continuar a abrir la economía. Base en los diferentes porcentajes, apoyaría el 25% si anduvemos del 25 al 29 y al 50% si anduviéramos en el 15 al 24%. Esto va a ser muy importante para todos que estén viendo y cooperen y participen. Voy a hacer todo lo posible de juntarme con los negocios porque yo siento con mucho respeto que muchas de las situaciones cuando abrimos la economía no se abrió de la manera que se debía haber abierto. Pienso que muchos negocios aprovecharon la situación de irse de bares a restaurantes, pero no en una manera ética. Tuvimos muchísimos en Facebook y en otros medios sociales mostrando el abuso. Sabemos de muchísimos restaurantes que no se quedaron en el 50%, pero se fueron hasta el 100%. Les agradezco a la comunidad con todo corazón, que no es mi orden, no como Ricardo Samaniego, el juez del condado, o una orden de la Corte de Apelación. Lo importante es que la comunidad tenga una conciencia colectiva y nos ayude a hacer las cosas mejor. Si no, lo que sucedió en Juárez está escalando la necesidad de tomar pasos drásticos, y es lo que hicieron ellos. Nosotros no queremos llegar a esa situación de cerrar completamente todos los negocios en un fin de semana, y sabrá Dios qué más van a tener que hacer si no responde la comunidad. De nuevo, les doy muchísimas gracias, que pasen buenas noches, que sigan celebrando. Si ven a un veterano, mándeles un email, mándeles algo por texto, felicitándolos y para recordarles que los apreciamos muchísimo en esta comunidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Okay, Judge, that is it.
Okay, thank you.